Hello and welcome. This is kind of a special episode of myNewsWrap. It's a look behind the scenes, or a look behind the curtains, because I got the question, for example, what I use for streaming the podcast, and I thought it might be of interest. Well, how I set up the thing that I do every Friday. And this is what this session is all about. So let me share my screen with you. So what are we going to talk about, or am I going to show you, is how do I gather my information, how do I do then the curation of the information, how do I do the streaming itself, and what do I do afterwards in order to have the streaming available and the podcast available. Now, what I will not be talking about is first of all, hardware. So what microphone do I use? What webcam do I use? There's tons of information out there, and it's kind of a question of what you like and what you not like. What I also will not talk about is analytics of YouTube, social media, impact, engagement rates, and so on and so forth, because I'm absolutely no expert in there. Okay, so let's jump into the topic. How do I gather the information? This was kind of the, for me, hardest part, because there are a lot of sources of information. You have YouTube, you have blogs, you have Twitter, you have LinkedIn, you have the SAP community, you have several other RSS feeds that you might watch. And you do that from your desktop, you do that from your phone, you do that from a tablet. And how do you really bookmark all the stuff in order to have it, in order to be able to bring it in shape? And I don't know what took so long in my case, but I now am using the Microsoft To Do app. So what I did is I just put one to-do section for my video podcast. And whenever I stumble across something on Twitter, on YouTube, wheresoever, I simply make a short task within the To-Do app, where I put in kind of a short description, as you can see here, and the link where I found it. I just put the stuff in there as it crosses my path, so I do not have a structure in there. It's just putting all in the bucket. And I have the To-Do app installed on my desktop, on my work laptop, on my phone, on my tablet, and so on and so forth. So on my iPad. And wherever I am, wherever I take a look, wherever I find information, I can put it in there. It really works perfectly for me. Now, when I have that information, and quite some information comes together in the course of a week, at the end of the week, before doing the podcast on Thursday or on early Friday, I take all that stuff, take a look at it, and bring it into shape, which brings us to the second part of the story. So how do I prepare the session? Well, as you know, I simply use a GitHub repo in order to push the information out. So I have no homepage or something like that. It's just a GitHub repo. I have one main page where I have an overview. And on this main page, you always find an updated next date and all the links to the episodes. And for each episode, you find a branch. And basically what I do is, I take the information from my to-do list. I thought about a little bit of structure that I now have more or less within each and every episode. And I fill that into my README file, and approximately 50 minutes before I start the session on Friday, I push it to my GitHub repo. I open up all the links on my browser, and then I do the streaming. Which brings me to the third point, which is probably the most interesting one. It's this should say streaming and recording. So I use, which is kind of a standard, the OBS Studio to do the streaming and YouTube streaming in order to broadcast it. So I'm not on Twitch or something like that. And well, the setup for OBS Studio is, I drag it in here, kind of basic. I have several scenes and I have 2 basic scenes where it's just me or just me with a desktop. It's really basic setup. You just have to put in your settings your streaming endpoint and your streaming key. Open the stream on YouTube, start streaming, go ahead. So I do not do there much of a buzz with a green screen or scene transitions or something like that. I keep it simple and easy. That's how things work for me. Concerning YouTube streaming, well, it's basic streaming that you schedule. So you schedule your stream for the first time. You have to put in quite some information. For consequent streams, you simply have to copy the stream that you already had and plan it for a new date, schedule it for a new date. That's basically it. One thing that I want to bring to your mind is when you then start to launch the stream. So if I go here and want to start the stream, oh man, here we go. There are these stream settings, and there is one thing that you should do, and that's put the stream latence to the extremely low latency level. Why should you do that? Because otherwise you have a huge delay between what you broadcast and when it is available on YouTube, which confused me at the beginning, and yeah, that's just a hint from my side in order to get a decent experience with YouTube streaming. Streaming itself, well, if you have a decent connection, so I prefer to have it on my local area network, on my LAN cable, so I do not do it via Wi-Fi, because that's more stable. I have quite decent speed to do the upload, so yeah, that usually works without any problems and is then automatically recorded and available on YouTube. So that's all for the streaming part. So I do the streaming, I tell my story that I have for the week, I show the links, and that's it. YouTube and OBS does the rest for me. Now, as an aftermath, and this is kind of the most of the work, or at least half of the work, well, I schedule the next session for sure. And as I got the request, it would be great to have the audio available separately. So not only a video, but also as a podcast. I have to extract the audio. Now, this is quite easy if you know how to do it. I use VLC Media Player. And what you can do there, and I quickly show you that. I'll leave that one. I go to one of my streams and I copy that URL of the video of YouTube. And if you go to VLC Media Player, you can go to Media and Network Stream, Open Network Stream. And here you put in the address of the network stream and put on play. This now will play the video, and you go to Tools afterward and the codec information. And here there's a little link in there that tells you where the audio is located. And what you do is you copy that one. I can then pause that and open that as a networking stream. And now you do not play it, but you do convert it. You convert it to an MP3. You enter the location where you want to store the MP3, and this will then extract from the YouTube stream just the audio track. That's on higher speed than the video itself. So if you have a video of, let's say, 30 minutes, well, this takes, I think, 10-12 minutes, and then everything is there and you have the MP3 file at hand. Now, as I do a live stream, there are some gaps before and after where there is no sound. And for the podcast, I want to get rid of that stuff. So what I do is I have my MP3 file that I extracted from YouTube, and then I use another tool that's called Music Editor. That's also available for free in the Microsoft Store. If you listen to the podcast, there is no intro music or something like that, which you could do with this tool. I just want to cut out the edges, so adjust the starting point and adjust the end point. So I take the MP3, I open it up, and then here you can adjust the start and the end time and save the audio file. MP3 is perfectly fine for me. And then I have extracted and make a kind of decent cut of the audio file that I then can publish at Anchor FM. So that's really easy. You just have to get an account there. And then you can push up episodes. You have to do a little bit of description, push the MP3 file, and well, that's basically it. Anchor FM will do all the work concerning the distribution to Spotify. I had a little bit of a struggle with Google Podcasts. It works now. I don't know exactly why it works. I did some things and well, now it's available. So, however, that took the longest time. I have not pushed it to the iTunes because I personally do not like Apple very much, and it's quite a hassle to get it running there. Yeah, that's basically it. I have the video on YouTube. I streamed it via OBS. It's auto-recorded by YouTube. You can do some, let's say, editing after you recorded it. I did not yet see any reason why I should do that. You could put in time marks and something like that. I then extracted the audio via VLC. I cut it via Music Editor and pushed it to Anchor FM. So here's the podcast. Well, then I kind of spread the news. So I have a little, let's call it template, which I push out then after the episode was streamed and after I have done the upload to Anchor FM. On Twitter, I do the same on LinkedIn. And that's basically it. I have to update each week all the links in there. So the link to my GitHub repo and to YouTube and Anchor. And well, basically I have to do the same in the GitHub repo on the main page in order to have the most recent dates in there. Yeah, and that's basically everything that is behind publishing this little podcast. As you see, no rocket science. I keep it really simple, so I'm quite sure you can put in a lot of more effort with styling and so on, but I think my setup does the trick. It keeps the work in a reasonable manner for me. Okay, so I hope you saw some tips and tricks how to do that. I hope you saw that the entry barrier to get things working, to get your podcast out, to get your video podcast out is really low. All the tools are open source, are freeware. So there is no real money that you have to spend in order to get the information out. So I hope this helps a little bit, perhaps on your journey to doing podcasts or video podcasts. That's all from my side. I thank you, and I hope I can see you or you can hear me on my next myNewsWrap, either on YouTube or somewhere on Anchor. Have a nice day, have a nice week. Bye.